Hello, and welcome to the Carnegie Library of Pittsburgh's Kids Club at Home. My name is Kevin, and I'm really happy that you're joining us today. For today's activity, we will be creating shadow cities out of everyday objects. Now, I enjoy doing this because it gives me a chance to build, create, and tinker with what I've made. As you'll see, making shadow cities involves a lot of imagining and testing, except it doesn't feel like a test at all, and that's what makes this really fun. Now, caregivers, tinkering is a curiosity-driven approach to learning STEM concepts that allows learners to develop their own understandings based on their own hands-on experiences. This sort of experimental trial and error approach helps develop comprehension and critical thinking skills that are essential to learners becoming skilled readers down the line. So before we get started, let's do an icebreaker. And today I'm wondering, what is a human-made object or structure that you think is really, really cool? Now, I've always thought tall buildings are really, really cool, so I'm probably going to pick one of those. And I think my favorite tall building in the world is the Royal Clock Tower in Mecca, which is in Saudi Arabia. Now, I don't know if you've ever seen this thing, but it's incredibly tall, one of the tallest buildings in the world. And it's so much taller than all the buildings around it that it really, really stands out. Plus, it has the largest clock face in the world. You should look it up. And I'll even tell you a secret. I once had a dream that I was flying around it, over it, like Superman. And this was only about a year ago, so don't tell anyone. What about you? What's your favorite human-made structure? Let us know in the comments. So today's activity involves cities, light, and shadow. And although you probably know what each of those things are, let's just take a minute to talk about each of them really quickly, just to be sure. So cities. How would you describe a city? We all probably know cities when we see them, but describing them can be tricky. If I had to describe them, I would say cities are places where people live really close together instead of really far apart. But I'm sure there's so much more you could add to that or say instead of that. What do you think? How would you describe cities to someone? Now, light. Light's another tricky thing to describe. I know it when I see it, but can I explain it? That's tough. So I'll look around right now and maybe start by thinking and noticing, where does the light come from in my room right now? Some of the light comes from the windows, right over there, from the sun through the windows. Some of the light comes from the light on my ceiling, right above me. And a teeny tiny bit of the light around me comes from my phone, right there. Now, it's interesting to think about, can you control this light? I can't control what the sun does, but I can control how much light comes into the room from the sun by closing or opening the shade a little bit more. And then the light above me, I could either just turn that on or off. There's really nothing in between. But the phone can do all sorts of things. I could turn off the screen completely, make it completely dark. I could make it really bright or really dim. I could turn on the phone flashlight, which is super bright. And most importantly, I can take the phone's light with me. Can't do that with the sun, that's for sure. This will become really important when we start our activity. And now shade, another tricky thing to describe. But I think we can agree, shade and shadow happen when an object gets in the way of light. I can see a shadow over there. The books are in the way of the sunlight. I can see a shadow behind me. The shelf is in the way of the ceiling light. I can probably see more around me if I took the time to look, but we should get started with our activity here pretty soon. But what about you? Do you see any shadows around you? And if so, can you see what object is creating that shadow? So let's start with our activity, which comes from Exploratorium's Tinkering Studio. Shadow cities will involve three things. You'll need a whole bunch of objects that you have around where you live or where you are right now. You will need a blank surface to be behind those objects once you build them into a city. A blank wall is totally fine for this. And you will need a light source. A flashlight or the light on your phone or a phone is fine too. I'm going to use the light on my phone. It's super bright. Now, what do you do with all these things? Well, you'll gather all of your objects, you'll build them in front of your blank surface, like a wall, for example. And then once you've built your city out of these objects, you'll make your room dark or as dark as you want and shine your light onto the city which will put a shadow city onto the wall or surface behind it. Now, if that all sounds kind of confusing, you can either go through this with me step by step, or you can just watch this all to the end to get a sense of what I'm talking about and then try it yourself. But before we get started, for real, it's important that you think about what objects you're taking. Don't choose objects that are really special to you or someone in your family, or that are fragile or breakable or sharp, or that'll make a big clang or some other scary sound if they fall to the ground, because with the building we're going to be doing, some things might topple over. Try to stick to objects that you can normally use anyway without a grown-up's permission, or make sure to ask a grown-up's permission if you're not sure. Better yet, ask them to build a shadow city with you. That would be super cool. So I'm going to start gathering my materials, my objects, then I'll show you what I've chosen, and then we'll move on from there. So you can see here, I've gathered all sorts of objects from around my apartment. And really, I don't have a plan for much at this point, but I just wanted to gather different things in different shapes and different sizes and see what I see. But as you look, maybe you can start to think about kinds of categories that I have. See, I've got some tape, some glue sticks, some clips, some rubber bands. When I see these things, I think maybe I can use them to connect things to each other. And then I also have some taller things. I have a water bottle. I have a very not breakable vase. And I have some shaving cream. And I feel like those might be really good things to make buildings out of, and then I can attach some smaller things to them. I'm not sure yet. Basically, I'm going to start tinkering, building what I build, and see what happens. If I use all of it, great. If I only use some of it, that's fine too. So, if you've gathered your materials, take a look at them. Start to think about different categories of things you have. What might you use your materials for? I'm going to start building now, and then I'm going to put my shadow city on the wall behind it. So here's what I came up with after lots of testing and experimenting and tinkering. And you may notice that I didn't use anywhere close to all of the materials that I gathered in the first place. I only used part of them, and I did bring in one or two new things because they seemed to make sense along the way. So if you look closely, you might see I've got some rubber bands attaching things together. I've got a paper clip up here attaching a toothpick, some more rubber bands here. Didn't really use the glue for attaching, but I did use them as part of my structures themselves. One thing that I did find really helpful through this process was actually talking to someone else. I actually talked to my wife a few times while building this. And she gave me some ideas, asked some good questions too, and helped me form my ideas and go back and make some changes along the way. Now, caregivers, this sort of collaborative outcome from tinkering really kind of mirrors the revision process in writing. You talk to someone, you get feedback, you go back and make some changes. So tinkering, especially if you have conversations with someone else, can really help the writing process down the line, in addition to helping you develop some new vocabulary to describe what you're seeing. So what about you? How did your city go if you've gone so far? Were there any challenges? Did you talk to someone about it? And if not, maybe you should check in with someone and see what they think and get some feedback. So now that my city is built, it's time to turn it into a shadow city. I'm going to close the blinds over there, turn off the light up there, and shine my phone light on my city and see what shadows appear on the background behind it. And of course, I'll show you. So I'm really happy with how my shadow city turned out. I liked and noticed how there's so much variety in it. There's big and small and wide and narrow and pointy and round and just so much variety. Some parts of it look like actual buildings and actual skylines from cities around the world, while other parts looked nothing like realistic cities or skylines and were clearly my own strange and original creations. And what about you? How did your shadow city go? Were there parts that were pretty easy for you? Were there parts that were tricky and challenging? And if so, what were they? If you could do it all over again, would you do anything differently? I hope so, because that's a really big part of tinkering, is making tiny little changes, testing new ideas over and over again, experimentally, to see what happens with your final creation. Now, you could do some cool challenges with this. You could try to recreate actual buildings and skylines. If you're feeling really brave, you could try to create Pittsburgh as a shadow city, and even some of its bridges. That would be tough. I don't even know how I would start with that. Anyway, share with us your final shadow cities or tips or comments anywhere comments are open. And also, if there are activities that you'd like to do next time, you can let us know wherever comments are open. You can find us on Twitter at Carnegie Library, or search for us on Facebook at Carnegie Library of Pittsburgh, and share with us your ideas and thoughts. If you like today's activity and are interested in trying out similar ones, we have 2 great places to send you. First, you can check out our very own Children's Museum of Pittsburgh's Museum at Home page. You can also check out Exploratorium's The Tinkering Studio. Both of these places offer great activities and resources for tinkering, making, creating, and building projects at home, and most of them don't involve special or fancy materials. The library also offers great resources to learn more about inventors and tinkerers and problem solvers. A great place to start is Whoosh, Lonnie Johnson's super soaking stream of inventions, a picture book by Chris Barton and illustrated by Don Tate. It tells the real-life story of an inventor who tinkered his way into creating one of the most famous toys in the world. It's available to check out on OverDrive, Libby and Hoopla, and once you do so, it'll be there for you to read on your screen right away. And of course, we always have our STEM book lists on our website at the library for you to check out fiction and nonfiction titles about science, technology, engineering, and math topics. And if you don't see anything there that's to your liking, just reach out to us anywhere we're online, and we'd be happy to make some recommendations for you. If you don't have a library card, you can sign up for one on our website, carnegielibrary.org, or just give us a call at 412-622-3114, and someone will be happy to help you out. Thanks for joining us for Kids Club at Home. You can tag us at Carnegie Library and share with us what you've made today, and be on the lookout for grab-and-go activity kits at your neighborhood CLP locations. We miss you, we hope you're taking care, and we'll see you next time.